Did you know in 1967, Israel fought a war it never wanted, but in the end returned back to Jerusalem, something it was waiting for 2,000 years. Shalom, friends. My name is Akiva Gersh. Welcome to Israel in 5, where in 5 minutes we give you everything Israel. Please like and subscribe. And if you want to keep the conversation going, please leave comments down below. So leading up to 1967, tensions on the borders between Israel and its neighbors were flaring up. We're getting more and more intense between Israel and Syria, Israel and Jordan, Israel and Egypt. It was not a simple situation. Israel was still less than 20 years old and still trying to find its feet, both economically and security-wise. Tensions were flaring up, and the Egyptian leader, Nasser, was calling for Israel's destruction. In 1967, he blocked the Straits of Tiran, which cut off Israel's economic capabilities from its southern port in Eilat. Eventually, he moved Egyptian troops into the Sinai Peninsula, kicking out UN troops, which had been placed there 10 years earlier to keep the peace between the two nations. Things were getting very, very intense. And Israel obviously had to decide what is it going to do? What are we going to do? Or are we going to wait for them to attack and then defend themselves? Are we going to attack first because we know any moment now they are going to attack? There were many diplomatic efforts to try to calm down the situation. None of them worked. In the end, Israel did attack on June 5th, 1967, a very, very smart move, because within just a few hours, Israel pretty much essentially wiped out Egypt's Air Force capabilities. Well, Egypt had sucked in Jordan into this conflict. Jordan didn't really want to fight this war. In fact, Israel sent secret messages to Jordan: stay out of this war and we won't fight you. Remember, just in terms of the region and the geopolitics of the region, Jordan had controlled Judea and Samaria, West Bank, all those years from 1949 up until 1967. It controlled half of Jerusalem, East Jerusalem. Jerusalem was split into two. Literally, there was barbed wire and armed guards running right through the middle of the city. So it's interesting to note that if they never did join this war, things would have looked very different after the war, probably up until today. But they did get sucked into the war. Egypt was the aggressor, was the most powerful nation in the Middle East at the time, and they basically, swindled them into this conflict. And just a couple of days into the war, Jordan did attack Israel, which of course meant Israel is going to attack back and defend itself. And pretty swiftly, I mean, the whole war only lasted for 6 days. So pretty swiftly, Israel defeated Egypt, Israel defeated Jordan. And then at the end of the war, the end of the 6 days, fought Syria in the north in the Golan Heights and defeated them as well. Well, as a result of defeating Jordan, right, Israel took over the entire West Bank, entire area of Judea and Samaria, of course, including East Jerusalem. Now, just for clarity's sake, this was never the plan, right? The plan going into this war was defend, make sure we don't get destroyed. There are many people around the world who, during the 6 Day War leading up to it, thought Israel might get destroyed in this war, right? So Israel's goals at the beginning were just to defend itself against its Arab aggressors. Never in a million years did people think that they're going to take over the entire Judea and Samaria, West Bank, or regain control over all of East Jerusalem, which includes the Old City, which includes the Kotel, the West Wall, which includes the Temple Mount. But things were happening so quickly, and Israel was winning so rapidly that plans changed on the fly. And that became a plan, right, in the middle of this war, in this middle of this week, to regain control of the Old City in Jerusalem. And troops went in, Tzadchanim, the paratroopers, through the Lion's Gate into the Old City. They fought a hard fight, but a short fight, and they took over the Old City, right? And these soldiers who had gone in, they were young soldiers, right? They'd never been into the Old City, or Israel already didn't have control or even access to the Old City for almost 2 decades, right? So these soldiers, many of them, again, so young, only heard stories from their parents about what it's like to walk through the Old City. Well, eventually they find their way through all the alleyways and they get to the Western Wall. And they're at the Western Wall after this hard battle, after this hard fighting where they lost so many brothers in arms, right? They get to this place that the Jews have been dreaming of, for so many years. Jews had not been there in a couple of decades, but Jews had not had sovereignty there in about 2,000 years. So here you have these young IDF Israeli soldiers at the Kotel, exhausted from the battles that they've been fighting that week. and they get to be the ones, they get to be the redeemers, the ones who liberate the Western Wall for all of the Jewish people. It was a very, very powerful moment. The chief rabbi of the IDF came, Rabbi Shlomo Goren. He brought a small Torah scroll and a shofar, and he blew that as a sign of this is a redemptive moment in the history of the Jewish people. There was crying, there was dancing, there was singing, there was praying. It was an incredible, incredible moment that Jerusalem, all of Jerusalem, was once again in the hands of the Jewish people. The Kotel, specifically the Western Wall, the Temple Mount, was once again in the hands of the Jewish people. It was very emotional, very powerful, and very historic moment that just a few days before, Israel and the Jewish people never imagined it would ever happen.